Over the last 5 years, we have worked at completely transforming our home from demo day to raising ceilings, a slight disaster of a process to restucco the exterior, turning our sunroom into an office, transforming our bedrooms, bathrooms, kitchen, back porch, and also building a chicken farm on our property in the process. It's been quite the 5 years, and in this video, I'm going to take you back through the whole process and share what we love, what we regret, and what we do differently today. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Hannah's Happy Home, and welcome to our 5-year recap video. Next week it will have officially been 5 years since we closed on this home, got the keys, and started the renovations. I know a lot of you have been here since the very beginning when we announced that we were purchasing this home. Some of you have been here since the middle of the renovation, and some of you are brand new here. So let us know down below in the comments when you started watching. I would love to hear. We appreciate each of you so much supporting us along this journey. So grab a coffee or a drink, a snack, sit back and relax, and enjoy watching us work for 5 years in this just 20 to 30 minute video. So the first video I shared about this house was this empty house tour that I filmed right after we got the keys to the home. I remember this was such an exciting day. I could see the vision of what the house was going to look like. We were so excited to move back out in the quiet countryside with plenty of room for the boys to run and play. At this point, little did we know how much work and what a process this renovation was going to be. But after renovating 3 houses now, we still look back at our home as our favorite renovation because of how exciting each step was. This was the first home we had ever purchased, and we just have a lot of awesome memories from this reno. A lot of stressful memories, obviously, but a lot of good ones too. I'll also show a few quick clips of what the exterior and the outbuildings look like when we first purchased this home, but we will get to those projects later in the video because obviously first off we just wanted to get the inside of the house ready for us to be able to move in. So the first initial thing that we knew we wanted to do in this home was to just make it brighter and help it feel more open. So we planned to take down a few walls in this main living area to just open it up and have one big main room out here, and also get rid of all of this red and yellow paint. And it didn't help that the texture on these walls was very heavy as well. It almost felt like a cave in some of the rooms. So that was a pretty huge expense that we knew we would have to tackle right away, was to bring in some contractors to take down that texture, get it nice and smooth, and just do a light kind of flat texture. Doing what you can yourself during the reno saves so much money. Even if you can just come in and demo and then have the contractors come in and start, that will save you some money as well. And our goal was to cash flow this reno, so we had set aside an amount to spend on the first phase of the renovation and then just cash flowed beyond that as we could afford it. Another way to make this room feel more open was to take the ceilings up. They had these ceilings really low here at the front door and also in the kitchen. These are 8-foot ceilings, and then they came down 1.5 feet in these areas, and it was an added expense to raise the ceiling in the kitchen because they had to move duct work, electrical work, but we do not regret that extra expense at all because raising that kitchen ceiling completely transformed the space. And these walls that we took down, I know I still get some comments about this, people saying that these were load-bearing walls, but we had someone come in, climb up in the attic, and confirm that these were not load-bearing walls and we could remove them. While we had some exposed studs, we did write Bible verses all over the exposed studs and our names and everything, and so that's really special to know that that's behind the walls. We made so many trips to Lowe's during this renovation and just in the last 5 years as well. So Lowe's definitely isn't the boys' favorite store anymore. So we are now starting to get to the exciting part of the reno. I remember this day walking into the house with Jalen. Walls were starting to transform. This is what they looked like before, and then this is what they were looking like during the process. They had some of the rooms down completely smooth and ready for just that light flat texture. And I know I do get questions about why we would add texture on top of a smooth wall, but every home in Arizona has some type of texture. So it's just something that they do out here, and I do actually like some type of texture on a wall. I probably would go a little bit lighter and flatter with the texture in a future house, but it just does help to hide imperfections, especially in an older home when walls aren't perfectly straight or level. So we did have an electrician come and do all of the wiring for these canless lights here in the main living area, and this is something that we maybe regret slightly. We did go a little overboard with the canless lights out here. The lighting is really nice when I'm filming, but it is a few too many canless lights. We just came from a house that was so dark and had like no lights in the ceiling. We just had to have lamps. So when we did this reno, we were like, we are going to light up this main living area, and we did a few too many lights. So as the contractors were working on the walls, the texture, the paint, they were also starting to work on the doors, and they were replacing some of the door frames and then all of the doors. Some of the door frames we could keep, and so they were just painting those and hanging doors. We do not regret the doors that we chose. I still love these doors. These were just a little more expensive than the normal style of doors, but it wasn't much, maybe like $10 to $20 more a door, which does add up, but we don't regret it. We're very happy with the hardware that we did on the doors, and the color that we chose for the interior of the house was Agreeable Gray by Sherwin Williams. At this point in the reno, we did go ahead and take these cabinets all the way up to the ceiling. Jalen did an awesome job on this. This was his first time taking cabinets to the ceiling, and I was really impressed. This is such an awesome way to help your kitchen feel larger and taller and just give it that finished custom look, even though it is not a custom kitchen. And we're really happy that we did all of these things before moving into the house. So we had all of the drywall work done, most of the electrical work done, the house painted, carpet installed. All of those large things were done before we moved in, and it just made it a lot easier, especially with little kids. Now there were a couple of rooms that weren't painted, like the bathrooms, but the majority of the house was painted. I will link the canless lights that we have in our house, and we also have used these in a lot of different projects over the years. They're very simple to install and great for a DIY renovation. So let's talk a little bit about this fireplace. I do have a couple of regrets over here, maybe, and I know I still get some comments about this fireplace today on why did I paint over this brick. This brick was already painted with some type of yellow paint, so it wasn't just raw brick. It already had something on top of it, and so my initial thought was I'll just paint it all white. Honestly, now though, I don't really know what I could have done differently, but I wish I would have done something that would have given this wall a little bit more character and made it stand out a bit more. And I just painted the tile around the fireplace black, which look fine, but I wish I wouldn't have just rushed to paint this tile, and I would have just waited until we moved into the house and I started decorating just to see what I would want to do. And you'll see that as we go on in the reno and I talk about what we regret. That's one of the top things, is just rushing into things too quickly and not living in the space first. Like, these big things needed to be done right away, but as far as some of the kitchen reno and different things like that, I wish we would have just waited a bit and done it the right way the first time. So we purchased carpet from someone locally and had them come and install it in our home, and we chose to only do carpet in 3 of the bedrooms, and we've been really happy with the carpet that we chose. Jalen's also installing trim, and we worked so many late nights over this time coming up here to the house after Jalen would get done at work to install trim, finish up some painting, just trying to get some things done before we moved in. And we were on a little bit of a deadline because we wanted to get out of our rental at a certain date, and we had in our minds a certain amount of things that we wanted to be done in the house before we moved in. Now, we do regret this floor trim a little bit because we did go with a cheaper trim at Lowe's. This is MDF trim, and so now 5 years later, most of these corners are kind of beat up from kids and everything everything else over the years. And then there is also quite a few spots where like the outer layer of the trim has broken off, but we can touch up those spots. It still does look nice. And at this point in the renovation, we were trying to cut costs wherever we could. We had just about used up our budget for this first phase of the renovation, and it adds up so fast. So you have to have a budget written out. You have to run the numbers ahead of time and try to stick to that budget as you're shopping. So for the floor trim, we could have just put off installing trim until we could afford to install a real wood trim. But at the time, like I said earlier, we were just trying to rush and get everything done. But it was really nice to have all of the trim installed before we moved in furniture and everything. We installed these Allen & Roth cordless blinds in 3 of the 4 bedrooms and still love them 5 years later. They are working perfectly. No tears, no issues at all. This beam was the first faux beam we had ever built, so I guess it was just kind of an experiment. We have built so many since then over these last 5 years, and shelves and everything, and we did actually end up rebuilding this beam about 3 years later. So this is something we probably should have waited until we had some more experience, but it's fine. It's not really something that we regret because it was a learning process and it helped us to be able to build better beams later on in the future. So we were just a few days away from being able to move in at this point, and now we are finally at move-in day, and we were able to just take our time with this moving process. When we would come up here to work, we would just kind of bring a truckload of items with us, and it really didn't take that long. Most of our items were still packed away in boxes because we had only been living in the rental for 6 months. So it was an easy moving day, and that first night of getting to sleep in our own home that we owned was so exciting. We were still living in a construction zone though, and we would wake up to the sound of the contractors arriving and people working on the house. The flooring was still getting installed at this point, and I will link this flooring down below if it is still available, because 5 years later, we still love this flooring. It is so durable and it's also so affordable. It was somewhere around $1.29 a square foot at the time. You did also have to buy underlayment, so that added on a little bit more, but still the total cost was so affordable for this beautiful flooring, and they have it in a couple different colors. There is so many little things when you're doing a renovation that you just don't realize until you do a renovation yourself. Going around and filling in all of the holes, all of the caulking that has to be done, the touch-up paint, all of those little things just never seem to end in a renovation. Advice that I'll probably continue to repeat during this video is to just take your time. Everything doesn't have to get done right away, but at the same time, I know when you're living in the middle of a renovation, you just want to have everything done. You want it to be complete so you can have people over and your house isn't a construction zone. And if you want things to look a bit better, you could just do something temporary until you're ready and you know what you want to do. This stone that we put under the fireplace is a little bit of a regret. Now, if I could do this over again, I would have just left the red tile for a little bit. It did look nice now that we had the wall painted and everything. We could have just left the red tile until we decided exactly what we wanted to do, but like I said, we were just in a hurry, wanted to cover up everything, get it all done right away. And the stone didn't look bad when you just had a little bit of it here at the bottom, but as you'll see later, we decided to add more of it up around the fireplace. And once you put that much of it on the wall, it just didn't look quite as nice as we thought it was going to. Just being honest with you, I'm trying to just tell you everything that I can think of that we regret in any way, just so that maybe it can help you if you are in the middle of a home renovation, or if you're going to be in the middle of a home renovation. I'm hoping that this video can be helpful for you, just hearing our thoughts now 5 years later. So this room is our laundry room and entryway area, and there's also a little bathroom here to the right. We picked out this tile from Floor & Decor for these rooms, and this is such a pretty tile. I do love this tile, But unfortunately, I hate to say it, but this is another regret just because we have 3 little boys. We live in dusty southern Arizona. We have a chicken farm on our property. And so having this white and light gray tile with a light gray grout here at our back door where there's so much foot traffic just wasn't the greatest idea. We didn't think this through too far. We just thought, oh, this is a beautiful tile. It would look perfect in a laundry room, which it does, but after living with it for 5 years, I think now I would do something much more durable. We did a quick makeover to this bathroom beside the laundry room, adding a little vanity, and then we completely finished this room later on. I'll talk a little bit about the issues we've had with this vanity 5 years later once we work on the bathroom again, but now we are starting to work on the kitchen, and this is where I'm going to share some more regrets, but maybe I shouldn't necessarily be wording it as regrets, maybe just things that we would do differently if we could go back and do this renovation over again, because it has worked for us the last 5 years. It's looked beautiful. All of the things, we have loved it, but I am just sharing what we would do differently now. So these cabinets were in great shape except for the doors, but we decided to just paint everything, keep the doors, and maybe down the road we could replace the doors. But we bought a really cheap paint sprayer on Amazon and it did not do a good paint job on these doors. I'm having a lot of issues today with the paint coming off, which that's probably due to us not prepping these kitchen cabinets properly. We've learned a lot over the last 5 years and we actually do know how to renovate a kitchen now. There's like a texture on some of the doors and the cabinets, so it is very hard to clean those areas. We should have waited until we could afford to get a good quality paint sprayer. We should have done much more research. But it's just a live and learn scenario, and the kitchen has served us very well the last 5 years. It's looked beautiful. So at the same time, we were also working on the exterior of the house and the landscaping. We did so much work to the yard area, and every day I would slowly work at painting all of these posts black. I probably should have waited until they were done with the stucco on the outside of the house before I painted the posts, but I was just itching to get stuff done. But we did end up having to do some touch-up paint to these posts after the stucco work was done. So this main area of the house did have so many doors, and we decided to remove one of these doors, and that was the sliding door right here, and we had it replaced with a window. This is something we probably should have done at the beginning of the reno, but it was a little bit pricey, and so it just wasn't in the budget at that time. So I am just continuing to stay busy. I'm starting on the hall bathroom now. I was just doing a quick facelift in this bathroom, and actually just a couple of months ago we completely finished this bathroom. And looking back and going through all of this footage, you realize just how much work we did to this house, and sometimes we just can't believe how much work we actually did to this place, looking back at what it looked like before and everything that it took to get it to what it looks like now. And we are so happy with how it turned out. This house has become our home. We have lived here and made so many memories for the last 5 years, and we learned so much along the way during this renovation process. So here is what the house looked like after, I think this was almost a year of working on the house. This is the point that we were at, and we are going to continue on with the renovations. And the next big project was starting to work on the exterior of the house. Man, the outside of this house was quite the project. As you can see, it did look pretty bad. There was a lot of cracks in the stucco, so much work that had to be done. And we decided to paint our windows on the outside to match the stucco color and the style we were going for. And I had seen a lot of other people do this, and it does work, but you may have to touch up the paint on some of the windows every year. And if your windows are facing the really hot late afternoon Arizona sun, then that paint will heat up and almost start to kind of ruin some of the window. So maybe wouldn't really recommend it unless you have metal windows. here we are working on our little patio area. We had tried to paint these boards, but they were just so warped and brittle. It was just time for them to be replaced. We painted our well house, and then it was time to go and pick up all of our buckets of total wall stucco. So this was quite a process. Like I said, if you watched all the renovation videos, then you know what went on. But the first contractor we had hired was just kind of a nightmare. Things just were not happening. He was saying he was going to be there and he wouldn't show up. And so eventually we just had to find a new contractor. Very happy with the work that they did. They came in, they patched all of the cracks. As you can see, there was a lot of patching that had to be done on the exterior of the home. Once the contractors were done with the patching and the prep work, then they sprayed a primer coat onto the entire house before spraying that total wall stucco on the home. And now 5 years later, we do wish that we would have had them do a thicker coat of that total wall stucco, but this completely transformed the outside of this house, especially when it had looked so bad for so long, because that first contractor had started to patch all of the cracks and things, and then it just sat for months and looked really bad. So to finally have this done was such a relief, and we were so happy with how it was looking. We also had some guys working on our AC unit and replacing the old one, which was over 20 years old. This old unit did not work very well, which we found out during our first summer at this house. It got so hot inside of our house. Was kind of a miserable summer. We had plug-in AC units in the house trying to cool it down. So we were very excited to be having this new unit installed. Jalen is painting all of the metal flashing around the house, and then we also installed this metal fascia. This was ordered from a local metal shop, and we decided to just go this route because it will last a long time. We wouldn't have to go around and replace all of the boards. We could just slide this right over the top of these existing boards. So like you saw earlier, we did take down that little arched wall that was here in the front of the house. It did help to kind of join these two sections of the house together, but we ultimately decided to take it down and replace it with this large wooden beam. And the stain color is Special Walnut by Minwax. And then we just sealed all of this with an exterior waterproof sealer. But these beams have held up really well, and now we are possibly considering adding some more beams in the middle to make like a wooden pergola, just to help to join these two sections of the house together a little bit more. We did use a concrete paint on the floor of this porch, and this has held up really well because it's underneath of a roof. But out on the patio here years later, the paint has worn off considerably from the rain and the sun and everything. Okay, so now it's time to start the landscaping, and we're really happy with everything that we decided to do here. We hired a local landscaping company to come and pour a concrete curb, and then we did gravel and just planted some hardy plants that will do well in the hot Arizona sun. Jalen installed a drip system to all of these plants so we don't have to worry about watering them. And then in the backyard, he installed a rainbird watering system and planted a mix of fescue and ryegrass, and now we have a beautiful green backyard. We also did a concrete curb back here as well, and we planted Texas sage bushes, which I could not recommend enough, especially if you live in Arizona. These have just thrived. They get beautiful purple flowers during monsoon season. And speaking of monsoon season, over this time we did have a huge monsoon storm that took out this large tree over here beside our house. Thankfully, it only took down our patio wall. So now we're working on our laundry room entryway area. We built this accent wall with a bench and hooks for coats and hats. I added baskets under the bench for shoes. And then Jalen had built a DIY shelf over my washer and dryer, and we hung some decor up there. Now we are finishing our kitchen reno, and a few things we do differently. We wish we wouldn't have rushed into doing countertops and backsplash. The kitchen could have sat like it was for another year until we could have afforded to do a little more of a higher quality kitchen reno with some granite countertops, but we just installed solid surface countertops and a subway tile backsplash. These countertops do scratch very easily, but apparently they can come and buff out the scratches, so we'll have to try that this year. But a kitchen is just something I wouldn't rush. This kitchen did turn out beautiful though, and we spend so much time in here. I have to give you a peek at my pantry because was. I love how this space turned out as well. We just had them spray white paint in here that really brightened up the pantry. Now we are starting our main bathroom makeover. This was one of the biggest projects we tackled, and Jalen did all of the work in this bathroom except for the shower tile. I was around 20 weeks pregnant when we started this reno, and so the goal was to have this bathroom done before I had the baby, and we did accomplish that goal. I think we finished a few weeks before Levi arrived, and I'll give you a peek at our finished main bedroom as well. We had finished this earlier during the renovation. In between working on that bathroom, we were also working on our outbuildings as well. So Jalen painted his shop dark gray to match the house, and then we started on our little barn. This was a huge transformation, and we also decided to do this project during the summer. It was hot and I was pregnant, so this was a rough project, but it turned out so cute. And little did we know, the next year this barn would turn into our egg packaging facility. So now we decided to add an electric fireplace and more stone to our living room. Like I said earlier, now this is probably something we would have done differently, but it's fine. I have now added more warm colors to the living room, which definitely did help, and the stone is fine, but if we would do it again today, we would definitely pick a different stone. As you can see, I stayed very busy during this pregnancy. We are now building a little outdoor kitchen area here on our back porch. That has held up really well over the years. We've loved it. We used it for so many different parties, but we do need to add some metal or something to the house behind the smoker. We did this little DIY project in the dining room. Jalen redid that shower in the laundry room, and now our third little boy has arrived, and so we had turned this room into my office, but we now had to turn it into a little nursery, and this has been Levi's nursery and bedroom for the last 3 years. Now we are finally cleaning up our fire pit area. We added gravel here, these chairs, and this is a space that we've loved over the years. These chairs have held up great. Now I'm completely finishing the back porch. It took me a little while to decide what type of furniture to put out here, the layout and everything, just because it is such a large back porch, so I wanted to utilize each space as well as I could, and we just love this back porch. We've loved all of this furniture. It has been such an amazing space. Last year we hosted a party with, I think we had around 60 people back here. So this porch has been such a blessing and one of our favorite areas of our home. The next project we started was one of our biggest projects, and that was to turn this sunroom into an office. As usual with a big project like this, it ended up being more work and more money than we thought it was going to be when we first started, but we ended up having to take down this entire wall. We decided to raise the floor up level with the rest of the house, which we're so glad that we did that, because that really helped this room to just flow with the rest of the house and help it to feel like it always was part of the house. We also had to completely tear down this wall and have contractors come in and rebuild a new wall and add all of these windows, because that old wall was very rotted and had some old termite damage in it. So it's a good thing that we ended up taking that down. We installed these large windows ourselves, and then the contractors came back to finish the outside of the wall, matching the stucco to the rest of the house. And then on the inside of the room, we completely finished it ourselves. Jalen did all of the drywall work in here. He did all of the texture work, the painting, everything. He did such an awesome job. We built a large faux beam for the center of the room, and at this point we had a lot of experience building faux beams and faux shelves, so this beam did turn out really awesome. No regrets in this room at all, except we would do the ceiling a little bit differently over here where we did the shiplap. We wish we would have just ordered large, like 14 or 15 foot long shiplap pieces. That way there wouldn't be a seam in the middle. We thought we could cover up the seam, but now years later the seam is cracked again. This office has become another one of my favorite rooms in the house with all of these big windows. I spend so many hours in this office working, and so to be able to see outside while I'm working watching the kids play. It's just such an inspiring space. During this time, we also had Tucson window and door replace our sliding doors here in the living room, and this was definitely worth the investment. We love how these look, and they were such an upgrade compared to the old rattly metal sliding doors. Over the last 4 years, we have been slowly growing a chicken farm on our property, so during these renovations, we had also been building a new chicken barn every once in a while. Now we are up to almost about to build our 5th chicken barn. So that business has been growing and keeping us busy, and like I said, we're using our barn as the egg packaging facility. So we did switch the boys from the little bedroom on the one side of the house over to this larger bedroom. So this larger bedroom is now the 2 older boys' bedroom and also the playroom for all 3 boys, and that has worked out so well. We added this peel and stick wallpaper from Wall Blush. We set up a Lego area for the boys, and this is just a fun space for them. Then we started on the coffee bar project. So we turned this used to be coat closet in our kitchen into a coffee bar. This was like the best thing we could have done to this area. We use this coffee bar every single day. Love how it looks. The wood countertop has held up really well, and later on we also added vertical shiplap to the rest of this corner, and just super happy with this space. Continuing on with the vertical shiplap, we added vertical shiplap to this wall in this little bathroom, and that completely finished this space and just helped it to feel a little bit more cozy, and it also tied it into the accent wall in the mudroom. Now we are completing our hall bathroom, and this is a project we just finished up a couple of months ago. We decided to do a stone accent wall in here and a stained wood ceiling, wallpaper on the walls. No regrets with this project, except maybe with the wallpaper. There was a little bit of issues with this wallpaper. As it dried, I feel like the seam separated a little bit, so you can really see the seam of this wallpaper in the bathroom. We might have to change that later on. But other than that, super happy with this bathroom. The ceiling, the stone wall, the beautiful countertop. We also did give our storage room a makeover as well, with lots of paint and shelves. We also did concrete paint on this floor, and that has held up really well, so works out great as long as you don't put it out in the elements. And now that brings us to today. After 5 years, our home and property makeover is complete. What a journey this has been. We've learned so much along the way, and we also paused halfway through to go and renovate a flip house, and then a year ago we renovated my brother-in-law's house. So I think after all that renovating experience over the last 5 years, we definitely now have a few things we would have done differently during the renovation of our home, and those regrets are mainly from the beginning of our reno when we were just brand new to this, and now we have learned so much since then. But it was a good experience, and along the way we turned this house and property into our home, and we're so thankful for this home we've been blessed with for our family. And you know what makes a house a home truly is the people you share it with and the memories you make together in that home. Hope you enjoyed this video. Editing this video over the last couple of days and going through 5 years of footage, I've just been able to relive the last 5 years, and I cannot believe how much work that we've done, how much has happened. It was all worth it. We love our home, and this process of turning this house into a home has taught us so much. I hope this video was helpful for you if you are looking to do a home renovation. Maybe it gave you a couple of ideas of things to do and things not to do. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next week on Tuesday with a new video. Bye.